Hi, I'm Colleen LaCosta with Speak Up for Kids. I'm the Executive Director, and I am here with Craig Goldenfarb of GOLDLAW, and we're doing an interview today.
Well, thanks. It's an honor to be here.
So Craig, for those who may not know, tell us about GOLDLAW's mission and what personally drives you to fight for justice in our community.
Well, sure, Colleen. It's been wonderful to have our relationship between Speak Up for Kids and GOLDLAW. GOLDLAW is my law firm. We started about 22 years ago, and we are a personal injury firm. So our mission is to hold accountable those who hurt others. And what that means is we really fight against insurance companies to stand up to their side of the bargain when they insure somebody and that person causes a car accident or any type of accident. We make sure they do not, the insurance company pays and compensates our client for what has occurred. And so therefore, we're really representing people against insurance companies. So I love our relationship with you. So why don't you tell us about your mission at Speak Up for Kids?
And at Speak Up for Kids, we champion the best interest advocacy for kids that are in foster care. So we interact with the legal system in every aspect, in dependency court, and then there's some criminal court involved, and of course, rights have been violated for the kids. So the legal advocacy is very important to us, and to see people in the community like you interacting, it makes all the difference.
Well, thanks so much. So it looks like we're part of the same system. We're advocating for children or adults in the justice system, which is, you know, a great part of America is we have a wonderful justice system.
Exactly, exactly. So you and your team at GOLDLAW are known for showing up, not just in courtrooms, but in classrooms, neighborhoods, community centers. Why is community involvement such a key part of your firm's identity? And well, sure. Just about that though, and you truly do show up at events and the missions behind all those that you do these things for.
Well, as a law firm, you know, what we do professionally is we advocate for people who have been injured or their lives have been taken. We represent their families. And that's, to us, that's support and protection and making people whole. Well, if you carry that forward to the community, you know, being active in the community is really the same thing. It's, you know, support, protection, and making people whole. So when we're involved with charitable organizations or civic organizations, it's really just an extension of what we do in our professional lives here at GOLDLAW.
I see that, and I see that with your team. Can you give an example of what really affirmed your why?
Sure. I mean, I opened a couple of charities myself. So as part of my law firm, I like to be charitable. So one of the tragedies that happens in society, other than car accidents, is people die of cardiac arrest, you know, heart attack. So I had a case 20 years ago where a little boy died at a middle school, and they didn't bring the defibrillator to the scene because they didn't think a 12-year-old was having a heart attack. And they had the defibrillator at the school, at the middle school, and the nurse chose not to bring it to the scene. And that little 12-year-old boy passed away. So that was a case. But what that caused in me was a why, which is kids shouldn't have to die from cardiac arrest. So I started a charity where we started giving away defibrillators to sports clubs, you know, like kid plays soccer, softball, any sport. So I started a charity based on something I experienced in my law firm, which was a child passing away due to a lack of a defibrillator. And that became a why for me as to why I started a charity giving away free defibrillators.
That is incredible and inspiring to see that you did that, and based on your experience. Now, how long have you had that charity?
About 15 years.
Wow. Wow.
It's been great. So we have a golf tournament every year, and we have some community support, and we have cardiologists and hospital CEOs and other executives from the county on the board for that charity. And that's just an example of kind of what I do for a living, then extending itself into the community in support of a charity that I came up with.
See, and I see that. I see that with you. I see that with your team. And when your team gets involved, you feel their presence because they're there, they're interacting, they know the mission, and they're hands-on. So we see that at Speak Up when you engage with us at our events. And you pass that culture on to your people. Do you get to see that and enjoy that? I know you can't be everywhere all the time.
Well, it's great when, I guess, you know, when you own a company, to me, my mission in owning a company is to take my values and hire people who can extend my value system, which is really helping others. That's what I do as an attorney, is help others in various ways. So if I can hire people who share my value system and then put them out into the community, then it's a lovely way of being I guess you'd call it a force multiplier in the military. It multiplies the value system that I have and puts it out in the community.
Why is investing in children's advocacy and mental health so important to you as a business leader? Because your support makes all the difference. We get to provide kids counseling that don't get it through Medicaid and the specialty things they need as their life is traumatized from the abuse that they've had.
Well, so in the justice system, something that really strikes home for me is that we kind of are the David versus the Goliath, in that the David is the unrepresented person against the Goliath, which is the insurance industry. So we champion people who are unrepresented, don't have resources, are vulnerable, or could be susceptible to being taken advantage of. In terms of your charity, for instance, you represent children. Children are among the most vulnerable people in society, right? They can't speak up for themselves. So in representing people who can be taken advantage of or vulnerable, in my law firm and in the community, there's some synergy there. So your organization represents vulnerable children, and we represent vulnerable people in all aspects of the civil litigation system. So there's a lot of synergy there.
There is. Thank you. Now, you've built a law firm that's not just focused on winning cases, but on doing what's right. What does justice mean to you beyond the courtroom?
Well, it's interesting, in today's society, unfortunately, our justice system is under attack, in that the other branches of government, I hate to get political, but are kind of encroaching upon the justice system. And the purpose of the justice system is to be a checks and balances against the other two branches of government. And the justice system is just as important as the executive and the legislative branches of government, if you remember your middle school civics, the three branches of government. So I am part of the justice system. I'm part of one of the branches of our government. And I take pride in the fact that all three branches are important. And I chose to be in one of those branches of government. And justice is super important. We use that word, we throw that word around, but we really don't think about what justice means. And justice is important in that that's enforcing the laws. And a government or an economy or a country only exists if you have laws, and then there's some mechanism of enforcement, and that's what I'm part of.
Which area do you see most attacked right now?
Well, if a federal judge makes a ruling and then the president or Congress insults the judge and calls for his impeachment, that's not right. That's not fair, because the executive should not be attacking the other branches of government. The branches of government are there to support each other. Congress is there to pass laws. The executive is there to do what executive does, but he doesn't have all the power and shouldn't have all the power. That's called checks and balances. We all learned that in middle school. But if you have the different branches of government attacking the Justice Department and saying justice is bad, judges are bad, they should be impeached, when they make a ruling that somebody else doesn't like, that's encroachment. And that's not the right way that checks and balances should work.
And I think that many people agree with you. What advice would you give to someone, especially a young person, who wants to use their voice to advocate for justice in the community?
Well, I think something I learned in I take some life courses and some leadership courses, and there was a module, a section of one of those courses that said to succeed, you've got to remove all the meaning from the word no. So as you're going through your struggles, or as you're going up the corporate chain, or as you're developing as a person, you're going to hear the word no in lots of different situations. You may have naysayers as to what you're doing. You may get turned down by 4 people before you get a yes. And it's interesting how much meaning we give as people to being rejected or getting the word no. But what if the word no had no power over you and you could keep going? And I find the most successful people and the most happy people are those who can break through giving meaning to what they would term as rejection. So when I hear no, I know salespeople say no is just a not yet. So I like that phrase, no is a not yet. So it doesn't have any meaning, so you can get to yes. And there's lots of books on that. But I love that theory that success, part of success is removing any meaning from the word no.
I love that too. Wow. And you got that, what leadership class did you do?
Oh boy, I've done so many leadership classes and also life coaching classes. I think that one may have been from a life coaching course I took called Landmark.
Nice. We see our kids needing that, and I think that we can say the same thing with the word can't. We try to turn can't into can. So that's how we inspire them and all the obstacles they've gone through.
It's wonderful, and the meaning of words is powerful to us as humans, and if you can reassign that or at least examine what meaning you give to words, that's what we do as advocates and as lawyers. Our profession is all about words and language, so it's interesting for me to learn the semantics of different words and what they can and can't mean.
Wow. That is inspiring too. So from your perspective, what's the value of partnership between legal organizations like GOLDLAW and nonprofits like Speak Up for Kids?
Sure, I'd love to work with other organizations because we all approach similar problems from a different perspective. So we're a law firm. We represent people against basically insurance companies. So we're trying to get justice or fairness through route A, route number one. You are a 501c3, you're a charity, and you're trying to succeed in a similar goal, which is to support children through route B, a different direction. But the greatness about the diversity of approaches from a company like mine and a charity like yours trying to get to the same goal is really, it's beautiful to watch if you have a similar goal but two organizations trying to get there in a different way. So I love watching that synergy, and not only corporations, but then you've got civic organizations, charities, governmental organizations, all approaching one problem from a different perspective. To me, that's kind of cool to watch.
It is, and for us, it amplifies the capacity. So you help us reach more than we possibly could, because they learn and they act, and your team behind you just is an example of that. So you amplify it for us. We reach more.
Well, thanks. I've watched, you guys started with the Guardian program, or Guardian Ad Litem program, I believe, in Palm Beach County, and you've grown a lot, you told me, especially since 2016, and it's neat to watch your organization grow due to, organic growth, due to support from companies like mine. So, supporting kids is something that it's hard to argue. It's hard to fight against that one.
Well, thanks. So how can the legal professionals do more to support nonprofits like us and amplify?
Well, it's a little disappointing to me that the legal industry, most of us lawyers, when you ask us why we became a lawyer, we say it was to help others. And you ask the same thing of doctors, it's to help others. Yet sometimes you become so enmeshed in your profession that you lose sight of the broader goal, which is helping others. So if you get outside of your office, like I do, and you realize that your goal is broader than simply making money or getting compensation for your clients, it's really to help others. So that's a broad goal that we claim we have. So if you just stick in your office and you're not involved in the community, you're only doing one way of helping others, which is getting the money. But how about if you can do it in so many other ways, like supporting charities and civic organizations?
And that's right. And for us, we have to start by asking for help, and you answer that call for us. And I've seen you help in all the nonprofits, because I saw you on the nonprofit chamber,
yes.
Giving some input there, and that's valuable for.
Yeah, I didn't even know until a few years ago that the Nonprofit Chamber of Commerce existed, and I was so excited to find out that such an organization existed. And it's funny, I'm about to roll out something really cool. We bought an ice cream truck for our law firm, which is really neat. And I'm going to go to the nonprofit chamber and say, any charity organization that's having an event, we'll give you free ice cream to the event as long as we can park our truck there, because it advertised my law firm. So it's marketing for me, but we get to give away free ice cream to kids and adults for the whole entire event to anybody in the nonprofit chamber. So I'm about to announce that. And now that you brought up the nonprofit chamber, that's where I'm going to make that announcement.
Oh my gosh, I'm in line,
We have a great website, it's wonderful.
Oh my gosh, so that is incredible. How exciting. And that's exciting for the nonprofits. I mean, I'm calling and reserving some dates right now. Oh my gosh.
So it's goldlawsweetjustice.com is the website. I'll give it to you after we're done.
Okay.
So the name of the truck is actually Sweet Justice.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So GOLDLAW's elevated client stories in respectful and powerful ways. Why is storytelling such a vital part of advocacy?
Well, we're taught in law school that if you lecture, people are not going to remember it, because the way the human brain works is they really process storytelling. And storytelling helps people remember because it creates context around a lesson. So the Bible is a great example. I mean, it's all stories, and you learn lessons. It's, the oldest book in the world that's a storytelling book, right? So we remember allegories from the Bible as lessons. So in my career, as trial lawyers, we're actually storytellers because we have a client who had something awful, a trauma happened to them, and the only way to get through to a jury is really by making it into a compelling story. That doesn't mean it's made up, but it means it's got a theme. It's often got a protagonist, an antagonist, a villain, a hero, and we couch our cases when we go to trial in terms of a story because that is what a jury will probably connect with.
Yes, I totally agree, absolutely, and it is what you retain. So what's one of those stories that was really impactful without giving up the private details?
Sure. Well, sadly, what I do for a living involves a lot of trauma, and some of our most compelling cases are when someone's life is taken. And I remember a lot of my cases because they're so powerful and meaningful. I had a client who was worked for AAA. They come to the scene of an accident, and they help fix your car. And he was called in the middle of the night, and he was a AAA worker, went to the scene of a car that was disabled on the side of a highway. And he walked outside his truck and got about 6 inches into the roadway, if that, as he was helping the vehicle out that had its flashers on. And a big Walmart truck steams down the road, and the driver of the Walmart truck was on illegal medication and driving and swerved and hit him and took his life in the middle of the night. And he left his 2 children and his wife without a husband and a father. And when I spoke to his wife during the case, I said, can you tell me a memory or something that's particularly sad? And she was telling me about her 4-year-old on their first Christmas without his father. And he said, I wish I was dead too so I could be with Daddy.
Aww.
And, those are the kind of quotes that kind of stick with you as an attorney, as to a child that lost their parent. And, when you can get that family a recovery, you can't get their dad back or their husband back, but when you can get them a recovery, it helps ease a little bit of the pain of someone losing a loved one.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And you hear stories like that all the time.
All the time, and I'll tell you, it gives me perspective as a father and as a husband. And as a person, that life is precious and it can be taken from you at any time. So it adds to my gratitude in life and my appreciation for how fragile life is, because your health or your life can be taken from you at any time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you've had a long-standing presence in Palm Beach County. How do you hope that your work is remembered?
Well, I don't really identify that much as an attorney anymore, which is kind of funny because I run this company and I am still an attorney, but I've hired a bunch of amazing attorneys to work for me. So my identity now is a word that I heard from something probably on YouTube or somewhere else, a philanthropreneur, which is a person who is an entrepreneur and has businesses, and they use that to raise money to help charities and be philanthropic. So if you combine being a business owner with giving back to the community, you get the term philanthropreneur. And so if I could be remembered as anything, it's this term I heard, which is philanthropreneur. And I thought that was a neat combination of 2 words.
I like that. You do like words. Now, what's one lesson you've learned through work that you think everyone, regardless of profession, needs to hear?
Well, that's a tough one, but
I bet you have many.
I do have a few, but I'll tell you one of my favorite ones is you can't really do anything alone. And if you know someone really successful, if you really interview them and they're honest, they're supported by a team. And whether that team is their employees or their family, or in my case, I had a mentor that helped me learn that nobody does anything alone. And if you got some really rich, wealthy, famous person and they claim they did it all by themselves, they're not being genuine, they're not being honest, because you need a team to do anything. No matter how successful you are, you owe it to other people. So I don't like to take credit for a lot of stuff, frankly. I give away the credit. I want to reflect credit because I feel that I owe whatever I've gotten or whatever I am to being helped by other people.
I 100% agree with that, and that's very humble. But you lead that ship with that projected through your employees, and whatever that hiring technique you have is, I wish we all had it. But my team at Speak Up for Kids is the reason for our success too. Can't be everywhere all the time and can't do all things. So every single thing, and our volunteers are so helpful with that. And GOLDLAW is some of those volunteers too. So I mean, it's amazing that that's all through the culture of your organization.
Well, it's neat. I love about your organization, and the reason I love the nonprofit chamber is because I find that as the leader of a company, I have more in common with the leaders of charities than I do with the leaders of other types of organizations. Because charities are led by people with a passion to help, whereas businesses are not always led by a person who's driven by a passion to help people. It might be just to make money. So I find myself floating in and out of charitable organizations because those are my people, and they share a similar way of looking at the world that I do, more so necessarily than business owners.
What a blessed place to be. Hey, you mentioned your mentor. Do you want to give him a shout out or her shout out, or no?
Sure, I guess. So I was in law school and I met a wonderful lady who I started dating, and we were dating for 2 months. She was not in law school, and we were in Gainesville, in the University of Florida. And it took her 2 months while we were dating to tell me her father was an attorney. And she knew I was in law school, but I guess she hid that from me for 2 months just to see if I was serious about her. So after law school, he hired me, and this was my father-in-law to be, and I married that woman, and she's still my wife. So he was my mentor. He's my father-in-law, and he's in Miami. So when I was 25 years old, I graduated law school. He took me under his wing, and he's been my mentor for about 30 years.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm lucky. And that's why I said you can't do it alone. You know, I was a punk coming out of law school age 25 thinking I was, you know, all cool and smart, but he taught me how to be a good person, how to contribute to the community. And I guess they say that you might marry someone just like your opposite gender parent. So my wife married someone a lot like her father. Like, I'm a lot like her dad. So she was attracted to that type of person, and he's just like me, and we get along great, and he's been my mentor for several decades.
That's pretty incredible too.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. And lucky, you know. I meet her in school, and then I find out her dad's a lawyer, and then he becomes my lifelong mentor. So that's what I was talking about. You need a team to support you and help you build.
And how fantastic. It's a family member as a result of it, too.
Yeah, amazing.
Okay, now if somebody listening today feels called to make a difference, what's one simple step they can take to start making an impact for kids, for justice, or for their community?
Well, I think if you pick, something kind to do for others, you know, I've read stories, articles on happiness, you know, how you become happy. And it's very clear from the psychological studies that by helping others, that is one of the main indicators of what leads to happiness. It's not that you get, it's that you give. And I found that to be really true. If I'm in a sad state or depressed or sad, and then I either practice some gratitude or I practice giving something to someone else, whether it's a kind word or a gift or something like that, all of a sudden my mood changes. So I think one of the keys to being happy and self-assured and comfortable in life, just start with doing something for somebody else. And that always puts me in a good mood, believe it or not.
That's very wise. Have you practiced that or learned that along the way?
I think I probably fell into it by mistake, in that I did it a few times and helped other people, and I realized, hey, you know what, this feels good. So then I started to see some articles that supported that from a scientific or psychological view, and I realized there was some data behind it. So I was like, okay, so it's supported by data too, it's not just a feeling. So I really do, like at home, if I'm in a bad mood, I'll go say something nice to my wife, and she'll give me a big smile, and I'll be like, you know what, I feel a lot better simply by helping someone else out.
Aw, yeah, and we need those people to make those first steps, to identify the needs, and if it happens to be something that they enjoy, child welfare and wanting to help foster kids, you know, making that step and looking online, reaching out, volunteering. It's not always about the money, but it's about that helping somebody else, that kind word, and making a difference, however that looks. And you live, speak, and practice that, and your law firm and the people behind you. And that is a beautiful thing.
Thanks, Colleen. That means a lot to me. And helping kids that's an easy one. Sometimes it's harder to help adults. You don't feel it as much, I guess. But I mean, kids are a really simple, a simple way to help people out. We all love kids except our own, maybe, I guess. I have 2 adult kids, so I'm speaking a long time of experience. But it's easy to help children, and your organization is a great way to do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm Colleen LaCosta, and thanking you, Craig Goldenfarb, for your time and your wisdom today.
Oh, thank you. It's been an honor to be here with you today, Colleen.
And I'm with Speak Up for Kids. That's Speak Up for Kids, pbc.org. Our mission is to mitigate the trauma and cultivate the self-worth of children living in foster care.